You're now live.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for attending tonight's special council meeting of Thursday, February the 18th. As we call the meeting to order, as always, we are pleased to be here today on the traditional territory of Treaty 6. We acknowledge all those who share a deep connection with this land. The city of Beaumont respects the histories, languages, and cultures of all of Canada's First Peoples, whether they be of First Nation, Métis, or Inuit descent, and appreciates that their presence continues to enrich Canada's vibrant communities. We are all Treaty people. As it is a special meeting, we're here to consider only the agenda items that are currently on the agenda. So I'll ask a member of council to move to adopt the agenda as presented. Councillor Stout.
So moved, Your Worship.
Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all in favor? That carries unanimously. Which brings us to item 3A, the one and only business item on the agenda today. Bylaw 998-21, Beaumont Innovation Park borrowing bylaw for second and third reading. So this time I will turn it over to Mr. Dowler to present the item and move us through it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and good evening to you and members of council. As you mentioned, only one item on the agenda for the special meeting tonight. Before council this evening is a request from administration for second and third reading of the borrowing bylaw for the Beaumont Innovation Park. As members of council may remember, at the February 2nd council meeting, council did approve proceeding with the Innovation Park project. Council also at that time gave first reading of the borrowing bylaw that is before council this evening. Since that time, administration has completed the legislative advertising process by advertising the bylaw in the newspaper on February 5th, as well as on February the 12th. So that administrative detail has been completed and again returns to council tonight for second and third reading. Approving this bylaw will allow administration to proceed with financing the project, including the purchase of land within the city limits. The borrowing bylaw does allow administration to borrow up to $10 million for a 20-year term at a rate not to exceed 8%. Just for everybody's information, the current 20-year rate is around 2.3%. And borrowing the full amount, $10 million, would result in a projected annual payment of approximately $610,000. As discussed at the February 2nd meeting, if the bylaw is approved tonight, administration still intends to move forward with discussions that are ongoing on alternative financing opportunities that may limit the need to borrow the $10 million or any funds. Administration will also fund the first 2 years of payments if we do have to do the $10 million of borrowing. Administration intends to fund the first 2 years of payments using reserve dollars so that there is no impact on the tax levy. And finally, administration will continue to explore options to pay down or transfer the debt obligations to another entity as we move forward with a variety of different options that are on the table and that we're looking at currently. With that, turn it back over to council and be happy to answer any questions council may have.
Thank you, Mr. Dowler. Appreciate the presentation tonight and the background information provided on the borrowing bylaw. At this time, I will move that council give second reading to bylaw 998-21, the Beaumont Innovation Park borrowing bylaw. And we'll do this in two steps. We'll open it up to questions, then we'll open it up to debate, and then we'll go through there. So we'll open it up to members of council if they have any questions about the bylaw. To members of council have any questions on the bylaw, we'll open it up to administration. Councillor Danlop.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Mr. Dowler.
If you could please clarify just a little more what you initially said about the potential opportunities for different way of financing. I know you mentioned the interest rate could be as low as about 2%, as high as 8%. If you can maybe give me some clarification on how that may work out at the end of the day, and also are there opportunities, depending on how we finance this, to pay it off sooner if opportunity allows us to in the future based on future revenues from the city and from the property itself? Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Daniluk. Maybe I'll start with the interest rate portion of the question. And within the bylaw itself, we just give ourselves some flexibility just in case there is an unexpected spike in interest rates. So that's why you see in the bylaw up to 8%. Just looking at the rates that we would be kind of looking at if we went out and borrowed today, for a 20-year term, you are looking at closer to 2.3%. So significantly less than the 8%. I don't anticipate we would get anywhere close to an 8% interest rate on this borrowing. So that's from an interest rate perspective. In terms of the actual alternative sources of financing, up to this point, we've had some conversations with a variety of different entities around private equity funding, P3 partnerships, looking at basically every alternative. And that does also include different sources through government agencies as well. So we are having those conversations, and we will continue to have those conversations. And I guess the point to be made very clear is that just because the bylaw passes and there is an ability or an authority to go out and borrow the money, it doesn't mean those conversations will end. We will still explore those options. And if one of those options does come through, we do have the ability to pay off the borrowing if we do go down that route. And 2 months from now, we get a different form of financing. We can always pay off the debt immediately and bring us back down to zero when it comes to that piece of it. As we've discussed with council, we've also looked at or are looking at possibility of transferring some of the debt if we did take it on to a different entity. So taking it off the city's books, transferring it over to another corporation or again, a private equity partner that would come into the equation for us.
Thank you, Mr. Dollar. Very good explanation, because I had some citizens ask me how this financing is different from when we financed the rec center. It was a straightforward debenture, where this is a different way of doing it, and there's being a creative way of doing it. So thank you for the explanation. It's very helpful. That's all, Mayor Stewart, for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see no further requests to speak for questions, so we'll open it up for debate, and just like to make a couple of comments as we get going. I think this is a great opportunity for Beaumont to markedly change its residential commercial tax base split that we've all been looking at for years. Beaumont has become a place where we all know our neighbors, and we have some great amenities, and we have a great quality of life in the city of Beaumont. And anything that we can do to take the burden off taxpayers to be able to fund that quality of life that we so enjoy here in Beaumont, I think is the way to go. So I'm going to be voting in favor of this bylaw this evening because I think it's a great step forward to I hate to use the word, but protecting the Beaumont way of life. So like to see that go forward. So open it up for comments from members of council, or seeing none, we'll just head straight for the vote. I'll give you a couple minutes. Okay, seeing none, call the question on second reading. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Is there a member of council willing to move third reading? Councillor Monkhouse-Wayne.
Yeah, I'll move by third reading, Your Worship.
Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? And that also carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Deller, for your time and your presentation tonight, and hopefully this gives us the resources necessary to move this project into the next phases. I'd like to thank members of council this evening for taking time out to come and consider this matter due to the timelines and constraints that we're in. I think it was an important meeting, and we're going to be in good stead as we move forward. At this time, seeing no further items on the agenda, short, sweet, and we'll call it adjourned. Thank you very much this evening.